Shalom and welcome to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. This is a recording of a Shabbat teaching by Rabbi Elliot Dorff.
We're going to talk about something in the Siddur, but I want to indicate that there's a real connection between what's in today's Torah reading to what we're going to be studying. In what we just read, actually, where the Torah is talking about you bring the first fruits to the temple, and you say Arami Oved Avi, those lines that are the core of the Haggadah of Passover. So you've probably talked about them ad infinitum around your Passover table, but it ends with what's not in the Haggadah. V'samachta b'chol hatov asher natan lecha Adonai Elohecha uleveitecha. You should rejoice in what the Lord has given you, you and your household, and the Levi and the stranger in your midst, because what happens here is that not only do you give to the temple, but you give to the poor and to the widow and to the orphan. And interestingly, there's a comment you don't have the Chumash in front of you. Gratitude and generosity do not seem to come naturally to most people. Most of us must be taught to remember to thank God for our good fortune and must learn through experience the satisfaction of sharing our bounty with others. What I want to talk about today is talk about gratitude. I would say, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel taught that awe and wonder are really at the center of Judaism, and I certainly think that awe and wonder have a lot of expression in the Jewish tradition, including a lot of the Psalms that we sing in the morning, and in a number of other places in our liturgy, in our Jewish life. But I would suggest that gratitude is actually more fundamental than awe and wonder. And I'll explain why as we go on. First of all, because it gets a lot of play, and along with awe and wonder, gratitude gets a lot of play in our tradition. So if you have your Siddur in front of you. So first, I'm going to talk about two different prayers here. The first one is the very first prayer that we say in the morning on page 99. Right? The very first prayer that we're supposed to say when we get up. Modeh ani lefanecha melech el chai v'kayam shechazarta bi nishmati b'chamla rabba amunatecha. The translation here is, I thank you, living and eternal sovereign, for your kindness in restoring my soul. How great is your faithfulness. Now, clearly, the tradition knew that you were alive during the time that you were sleeping. So this is not really talking about it's not really talking about your life, but it's talking about your consciousness. In this case, that's apparently what nishmati means here. Your consciousness and your ability to understand what's going on in the world and to think about it and to have gratitude for it. Rabbi Ari Lucas, some of you may remember, taught us that the Hebrew could have been ani modeh lefanecha. That would be perfectly good Hebrew. But the tradition is modeh ani lefanecha. You start with thanksgiving and then you talk about yourself, right? In other words, that and why is that important? I'd suggest to you that this entire emphasis on gratitude is important because it gets us out of what philosophers call our egocentric predicament, right? In other words, the fact that like it or not, we have to see the world through our own eyeglasses, through our own eyes, I'll say. Some of us don't have glasses. We have to see the world through our own vantage point. That's just the way it is. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as we also gain empathy and sympathy, but especially empathy, right? Where we are able to try to get out of ourselves and look at the world through others' eyes and ultimately through God's eyes. That's what the point of all these brachot are in the tradition. God doesn't need our blessing. God presumably is beyond that. But we need to bless God. We need to get out of ourselves and to recognize that we are not the be-all and end-all of everything, and that we are really dependent upon not only other people, but upon the world itself, ultimately upon ultimate existence we call God, right? It's so that we need to get out of ourselves and out of our thinking that we are in Deuteronomy chapter 8, the essence of idolatry is defined as such. Ani va'otzem yadi asat hakayil hazeh. I and the strength of my hand has done all this great stuff, right? That's the essence of idolatry. And ultimately, what you need to do is that you can be proud of what you've done, and you should be proud of what you've done. You should have a certain sense of self-worth. But at the same time, what you need to have is a sense of the fact that you're not the be-all and end-all of the world, that you owe a lot to other people and also to God. Now, that's expressed not only in the early morning service, but in the Amidah 3 times a day or 4 times a day on Shabbat, and festivals 5 times a day in Yom Kippur. If you will take a look for a moment at page 164, which we just said as part of Shacharit. It's also in Mariv last night, it's in Shacharit this morning, it's in Musaf, and it's in Mincha. Right, because this is the third last of the blessings, and and you may remember that the Amidah consists of 3 blessings at the end, 3 blessings at the beginning, 3 blessings at the end, and then a middle section. The middle section is 13 blessings on weekdays, 1 blessing on Shabbat or festivals, Mekadesh Shabbat or Mekadesh Yisrael v'Hazmanim, right, and also on Yom Kippur and on Rosh Hashanah, except for Musaf, right? So it's either 13 blessings or 1 blessing in the middle section. It's only in Rosh Hashanah Musaf when we have how many? 3. We have Malchiot, Zichronot, and Shofarot, right? So we have 3 blessings in the middle section of the Amidah on Rosh Hashanah Musaf, not on the other prayers of Rosh Hashanah, but only in Musaf and Rosh Hashanah do you have that exception. You have 3 in the middle. So it's either 13 or 1. This is the third last of the blessings, and so it gets repeated every single time we do an Amidah, 3 times a day, 4 or 5, depending upon what the day is. And look what it says. Modim anachnu lach. We thank you, God. She'atahu Adonai Eloheinu v'Elokei avotenu. You are our sovereign and the sovereign of our ancestors forever. Tzur chayenu, the rock of our lives. Magen yishenu, the shield that saves us. Atahu l'dor v'dor. You are the one forever and ever. Dodelecha. Now watch what we're supposed to be thankful for. Dodelecha u'nesaperti lachecha. We will thank you and pray and speak your praise. Al chayenu hamsurim biyadecha, on our lives that are handed over in your hands. In other words, that we do not. Well, the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot says, Al korchacha ata nolad ve'al korchacha ata tamut. You are born against your will, and you're going to die against your will. Right? In other words, that our lives are literally within your hands. And on our neshama can be used in Hebrew in a whole variety of different ways. It can be our breath, linshom. More commonly, when you're talking about neshama, you're talking about our inner being, sometimes called our soul, but that's English and at least all kinds of Christian connotations, which I don't want to get into now. But basically our inner being, our thoughts, our emotions, our will, that's our nishmotenu, that are dependent upon you. And on your miracles that are with us each day. Now this is clearly not the sense of miracle in the sense of an interruption in the laws of nature. There is that sense of miracle, right? But this is the exact opposite of that, because this is on the Seker Shebachal Yom Imanu, on your miracles that are with us each day. So what do you think the liturgist has in mind? Yes, waking up, living our lives, our bodies functioning better or worse, but still functioning in ways that most of us who are not physicians don't really understand, right? And our ability also, other things that you might imagine, that our bodies function. That's one miracle. That's with us each day. What's another?
Sunrise, sunset.
Yes, the functioning of nature, that it functions not only regularly, but so regularly that we can do science, right? That we can study it and predict it, and even to some extent control certain things. We can move indoors when it rains, that kind of thing, right? And what else? What else do you think? Our ability to create new life. We just had Misha Barak for a new dad, and the other in the sanctuary. Our ability to create new life, and spell that a little bit more. Our ability to create. What else? Yes, create relationships, to create new ideas, to create new. We're in Los Angeles to create, when they're not on strike, new movies, right? New artistic creations of various sorts, right? Our ability to imagine what could be, right? All of those things are nisecha shebachol yom imanu, right? And and on your wonders and your goodness, your acts of goodness at every time, erev avoker v'tarayim, evening, morning, and afternoon. Now, take a look for a moment. If you, unfortunately, this Siddur doesn't do it right away, but as part of this bracha, the bracha itself ends at the bottom of the page. Hatov shimcha l'chane el hodot. Your name is good, and it is fitting to give you thanks. Right? Now, as you can see here, on Chanukah, we add Al Nisim. So turn to page 430. In most Siddurim, this is just on the spot here, but in this Siddur, they did it this way. This is what we include in this blessing on Chanukah, on Purim, and on Yom HaAtzmaut. But let's just take the Chanukah. Take a look for a moment and read through it on page 430. And this is the liturgy for Chanukah. What's missing, by the way, in this?
The miracle of the oil.
Yes, the miracle of the oil. Right? Oil they had only oil for one day and it lasted 8. That's what you usually think about as the miracles of Chanukah, right? But it's completely absent in the liturgy. So what are the nisim do you think they're talking about here? The liturgist is talking about. What are the miracles that the liturgist is talking about? Yes, the survival of the Jewish people, right? Against all odds. And that's to a certain extent, the way that people, I think, that's the reason why you have it also, you have an Al Nisim for Purim, and in our liturgy you also have one for Yom HaAtzmaut, right, for Israel's Day of Independence, which were in each cases not completely against the laws of nature, but unexpected, right? Unexpected because the odds against us were so great. So the nes here, the nisim here, is not the oil that lasted for 8 days, even though there was only enough for one. The nes here is the unexpected, and the unexpected good things. There are also, of course, unexpected bad things, right? But the nes here is still within the laws of nature, but something unexpected. And once you recognize this and have gratitude for it, then back to our Torah reading today, one is supposed to express that gratitude not only in words, but in deeds by helping those who don't have. And that's really what's in the very beginning of our Torah reading today, and hopefully in our lives always.
You have been listening to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. If you enjoy these podcasts, we invite you to write a review on the Apple Podcast site or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information about Temple Beth Am Los Angeles, go to tbala.org.